Is it possible for someone to die of rapid aging from watching a football game? Because that's what I feel like I experienced last night. The Atlanta Falcons have faced off against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and have come out victorious. The final score of the game was 30-36, and with this win, we are now on top of the division at number 1. So, exciting times here. I'm gonna cut to the chase. This was a great game. This was, in my opinion, the first game where I felt like we truly earned this win. This wasn't a case of us getting lucky. This wasn't a case of us, just going through the motions. This was a case where the offense really put in the work, and our offense really clicked for this game. So let's go ahead and go to those stats right now to see how well they did. First, we got the man of the hour, Kirk Cousins. He completed 42 of his 58 passes with a completion rating of 72, and he got 509 yards. 500 yards! Man, this was a great game to watch. It just seems like peak Kirk just came out in this game. He threw 4 touchdowns. He did get 1 interception, but, that was just at the... We'll get to that. Bijan Robinson, he had a somewhat better game this game. He had 12 carries, 61 yards. Drake London, 12 receptions, 154 yards, and 1 touchdown. Darnell Mooney, he got 9 receptions, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Kyle Pitts, we ended up throwing to him again. This is amazing. He got 7 receptions and 88 yards. Who was it? Who was it in the fan base that started the rumors that we were going to trade him because of his no reception game last week? Whoever it was, I just hope y'all feel. I hope y'all feel silly for that, because this proves that Kyle Pitts is still an amazing player, who is an amazing asset to this offense. Ray McLeod, he got 6 receptions, 66 yards, and Kaderil. I'm so sorry. I'm not entirely sure how to say this first name. Kaderil Hodge. This man right here. 2 receptions, 67 yards, and he got us the overtime touchdown. Man, this offense was stacked with numbers. Alright, so let's go over the defense a little bit. Caden Ellis had 4 tackles, 3 assists. Jay Bertrand had 4 tackles, 1 assist. J.C. Bates had 3 tackles, 5 assists. And David Onyemata had 2 tackles and 1 sack. If I butchered that name, I'm so sorry. Alright, so before I gush over the offense even more, let's talk about some of the problems that occurred during this game. Case in point, the defense. The defense, I don't know what's happening. Bucks offense was obviously very tough. We had to go against them. But, the defense, on more than one occasion, just had left Mike Evans and left all their other weapons completely wide open. And it just seems like Jimmy Lake had a hard time developing defensive plays. And, I talk about the coordinators a lot, but one point that I feel like we need to also remember is the players they also need to execute. So I feel like, it's a balance that needs to be had between like good defensive play calling and good defensive player execution. Which I feel like both were kind of lacking this game. There were multiple occasions as well where we allowed their rusher to cut through us. That's one thing I keep saying this every week we need to work on. We need to work on our rushing defense. And while we're on that, we also need to work on our rushing offense, because I shouted out Bijan Robinson at the beginning. However, for the first half of this entire game, Bijan did not look good at all. He looked rough. Any attempt he had in trying to get a first down, he would either get stopped at the line of scrimmage, or he would get just a couple yards. However, in the second half, he did pick it up significantly, and he was able to get a good run. But I'm just worried about him not necessarily having as good as a year this year compared to his rookie year, which obviously you don't want that. You don't want your rookie year to be your peak year. But besides that, another thing I want to bring up is the O-line really struggled in this game. Buccaneers, obviously, they have a good pass rush defense, so our O-line, again, struggled a little bit. Not, I wouldn't say as much as week 1 against the Steelers, but there were multiple instances in which Kirk Cousins was sacked. So we just got to work on that a little bit more. But outside of that, this was an incredibly competitive game. You know, obviously Buccaneers, very, very good team. Even I can acknowledge that. Both our offense and their offense were very competitive during this game. And it was just a great game. Like, regardless of the outcome, this was probably my favorite game out of all the games we've had. And certainly my favorite Thursday night game. Because, let's be honest, they haven't really been all that great so far this season. I mean, what did we have? Jets and Patriots, Cowboys and Giants. Like, get out here with that. Our game. It makes me happy as a Falcons fan to see everyone acknowledging the fact that our game was by far the best. You know what I mean? So, so there was that. I'm still not a fan of Prime as a streaming service, or at least one like that films football games. But that's a whole other thing. But regardless, this was a great game. So let's talk a little bit more about what made this offense so good. Kirk Cousins. You remember what I said in the Eagles video about how in that last drive a switch flipped in Kirk? It seems like for this game, Kirk Cousins had that switch flipped throughout the entire game. Throughout the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, Kirk Cousins maintained onto that fire. That fire dwindled a little bit during a couple of the drives in third quarter, but that fire was consistently on. And this is something that I like to see, because one thing that worried me about this game, especially with the first half, was that the second half was going to be when that fire would dwindle and that drive to win the game just wouldn't be there no more. But we kept on to that fire. So that's something that I love to see. And the fact that we were able to beat the Buccaneers means that our next opponent, the Panthers, next week, I'm going to, in advance, knock on wood for this, but I think we have a pretty good shot at winning another one and furthering our our dominance in the NFC South. And I knocked on wood, so I gotcha. Don't worry. Okay. But with that said, even though we had an amazing game offensively speaking, that didn't mean that we blew out the Buccaneers. This was still a game in which the Buccaneers very well could have taken over, and they very well could have won. However, the reason why I'm not as upset about this game is because I feel like this says more about the Buccaneers just being a good team. Honestly, this entire football game kind of played as like an anime fight sequence. You know how in some of those fight sequences, like, there'll be moments where this character is winning the fight, then there's moments where this character is winning the fight, and it just goes back and forth constantly. That's what this game was. Both teams just kind of, like, they just play hot potato with the leading score. This is where all the mistakes that happen during games really start to add up, and that what really adds to the nervousness factor. For example, in that play where Kirk Cousins threw to Darnell Mooney, he is wide open. He tripped a little bit, but he turned around, he was wide open, he got it, and then he dropped it. Oh man, that was so clutching. I literally have in my notes right here as I was watching the game, I just wrote, Darnell, no! Man, I was screaming, I was crying like a kid who was visiting Santa. And immediately after that, Youngway, he was going up for a kick, and then his kick ended up getting blocked. Which, by the way, that reminds me, how, I genuinely am asking this, how did Youngway Koo miss those field goals at the beginning of the game? He kicked the field goal, went to the left, and then a flag was on offsides on the Buccaneers, and so he had no chance to kick a field goal, and then it just went far left again. or this way, depending on how this thing, But how did he miss that? I am genuinely like Younghoe just seemed off throughout the entire game. He did compose himself and he was able to make scoring plays again, but that was something that had me scratching my head in confusion. Like, what was up with him this game? So it was also that, but there was also a moment in the final, or what I presume to be our final drive, in which where right before the 2-minute warning, it was third down, and the correct thing to do in this case would be to wait for the 2-minute warning so that you could, get that timeout and you can like plan out how you're gonna go. But no, right at 2 minutes and 1 second, Kirk decides to snap the ball and go for a play, and it results in another loss of yards. And this is where I'm just questioning, why did you not wait for the 2-minute warning? You literally could have waited. And this is another point that I was making about how in these last drives of these games, Zach Robinson, whether it be Zach Robinson or Raheem Morris, or if this is something Kirk decided to do, we make decisions that end up shooting ourselves in the foot. And, it's just kind of one of those things where it's like we need to be able to not let the pressure of these type of situations get to us, because I feel like that's the only thing that is like consistently the culprit in making us make those like bad decisions. However, I'm not going to hold that against them too hard in this particular case, because when we did get that ball back, we were able to get into field goal range, and Younghoe was able to get into overtime. After we got the ball, Kirk Cousins was able to pull off his magic. So in the end, it's one thing like be wary of in future games, but in this game, that didn't affect us too terribly much. It's just something we need to be mindful of so that we can try to avoid in the future. But overall, man, I am super satisfied with how the Falcons played in this game. I am super satisfied with this win, and I just think this is the momentum we need to keep going. We started the momentum with Saints. We're continuing even better momentum with this win against the Buccaneers. I feel like if we continue with this momentum, we will eventually get to that point in which this offense will be this good. It will become the offense that we expected them to be in the all throughout the preseason. We expected this offense to be elite, and now we're seeing that come to fruition, showing that it wasn't necessarily something that needed to happen immediately. It's just something that we had to eventually get there, and hopefully this is signs that is happening. So I'm just so happy about this game. I'm so happy about the future. This right here is what I needed. This is what I wanted. I wanted to see an explosive game, and I wanted to see an explosive performance come from our team to show that we have something here. We have something, and we'll hopefully make it to the playoffs. And even if we don't get far into the playoffs, we have a good foundation. And we can get even better from here. We can get even better. So, it's exciting times right now. This is an exciting win. And we have exciting opportunities. And we have exciting potential. And that's kind of the key of it all. We have excitement here in this team. But, that's about it for this video. Thank y'all for watching. And as for Sainties and Buckies, thank y'all for the win. We appreciate it. Anyways, I'll see y'all next time. I hate Kirk Cousins.